We've all heard them. Maybe we've even told a few ourselves. These are the 5 big lies of retirement that are so prevalent in our culture, everyone believes them. Stay with me. Number one, you retire at age 65. This is a huge lie, and I know exactly where this came from. This came from Social Security and the concept of collecting Social Security at age 65. It has just become part of the culture when we talk about retirement. Even my generation, millennials and Gen Zers, we think about retirement as age 65. Well, of course, many things have changed through the years. Full retirement age in Social Security moved from 65 to 67. Americans are living a lot longer. What is the true retirement age of many Americans? Well, many Americans retire in their early 60s. Think like 62 to 63. They often don't retire of their own volition. There is a layoff or restructuring at work, or they're offered a buyout package and shown the door. They often want to work longer, or maybe they want to work in a slightly different capacity, but they really want to work. And the barriers that they face are ageism, health issues, family issues, and just general societal expectations that by the time you're in your early to mid 60s, you should be put out to pasture because of this idea and the collective American conscious that you retire at 65. Now, as a financial advisor, what is the truth about the retirement age? The truth is it varies depending on the person. If I have a client who is in their mid to late 50s and everyone in their family is dead by the age of 70, maybe retirement earlier makes sense because their life expectancy may not be that fantastic. If I have another client and everyone in the family lives until 95, maybe 100, maybe working to 70 or beyond or trying to extend a career absolutely makes sense. But we have to really look at the individual and their personal life circumstances before we make a statement on what is the best age for retirement. Many people intend to work beyond their early 60s, but just aren't given an opportunity. And personally, I think that is changing dramatically. I think millennials and Gen Zers will have to work past their early 60s simply because there are not enough people, young people, children, who will be able to replace the population that is aging or dying. So that means that the current population will have to work longer and possibly pay increased taxes for the same level of service. There really is no hard, fast, correct answer. And this number that we've pegged to 65, I believe needs to change, and fortunately is changing for millennials and Gen Zers who will have to work a lot longer in the future. So the second lie we've all heard about retirement is that you don't have enough for retirement. Now, I review some mighty big numbers for people, and I work with high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals. And so many of my clients do have considerable sums in retirement accounts. But here's the reality, and this is from my bread and butter financial advising days where I worked with many families in middle America, and I still have some of those families in my book of business, and I love them and enjoy working with them greatly. Most people do not have millions of dollars in retirement accounts. There's the truth. There you have it. Most people are lucky to have a few $100,000 saved for retirement, and that's like you're cracking if you have $200,000, $300,000 saved in a retirement account. How do people make it through? People just make do, right? If you have two people, a husband and wife, or wife and wife, or husband, husband, whatever, with Social Security who are working together, you have a small pension, and you have $200,000 to $300,000 in a retirement account. In most places in the U.S., you can get by, and in some places in the U.S., you can get by very nicely, and you live a frugal lifestyle. Most people who have $200,000, $300,000 in a 401k account are getting by through two Social Securities, maybe a small pension, and living a very frugal lifestyle. Now, this is where this is going to run into serious issues. A lot of millennials and Gen Zers are not getting married. So a lot of millennials and Gen Zers and Gen Xers as well are going to retire as singles. So they're going to have one retirement account. Second problem with this is that pensions are all but non-existent. only 14% of Gen Xers have access to a pension. So that's not going to be an option for the vast majority of people. And Gen X, millennials, and Gen Zers are going to have to rely on their 401ks or retirement accounts, which may not have that much money in it. With one Social Security income, no pension, and a low balance in a 401k, it is an absolute recipe for disaster. I've talked to a few people in the younger generations who are talking about like the Golden Girls model, where a group of older people come together and live together and share expenses. And that can be a viable model for some people. It doesn't always work out. Maybe I'll do another video about that. I've seen that where it goes sideways. But I think Gen Xers, millennials, and Gen Zers are going to have to get creative in designing their retirement, because they may not have enough money in retirement accounts and they don't have a spouse or a pension to rely on to make up the difference. Number 3, you're going to sit at home and watch TV in retirement. This comes from kind of the beginning days of Social Security, where 65 was the retirement age. Most Americans didn't live until 65. If you did work, it was often very hard and physically strenuous work. And by the time you were 65, you were really in the twilight of your life and you were in your final years. We do have some people who still feel that way. They're going to sit home and watch The Price is Right into retirement until they depart this earth. Fortunately, I think baby boomers have redesigned concepts of retirement. They have plans. They're going to travel. They're going to dine out. They're going to spend time with friends and family. They're going to see the world. They really have big plans for their retirement. And what it's created is something called a retirement smile. But essentially, as soon as you retire, there's a very high level of spending for several years. Those are the go-go years. Then there's a dip in spending, the no-go years, and then there's another rise in spending for medical costs towards the end of life. And it becomes a bit of a challenge for a financial advisor to plan all that out. For example, a common occurrence among people who are newly retired in their 60s or even in their 50s, if they had the good fortune of retirement early, is they're at home and suddenly they decide that they want to renovate their home. Well, why is that? It's because, when they were working full time, they didn't spend that much time in their backyard, or maybe they didn't spend that much time in their kitchen. But now they're retired, they're at home a lot, and they're realizing their kitchen is kind of shabby, and the cabinets are a little bit old, and the window treatments are, a decade outmoded. Or they notice that their backyard isn't really very comfortable, or there's a lot of weeds back here, or this whole thing just really needs to be redesigned and we need to bring in a landscape architect. I've had people retire and within 18 months of retirement spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on home renovations. That's something that really has to be planned out very carefully. People can easily run themselves into debt, but this expectation of I'm going to sit home and watch TV, fortunately, is going by wayside, and financial planning for retirees is becoming much more dynamic for financial advisors, and we talk more about the go-go years and no-go years, or the retirement smile. Fourth thing, I occasionally hear this. Fortunately, this myth is dying because I think it's a very dangerous myth. Social Security alone can be enough if you're frugal. This one is still out there. I occasionally hear it. It shocks me when I hear it. There are a few YouTubers who are really great YouTubers who talk about their lives on Social Security and have managed to build very rich, very interesting lives based on their Social Security alone. But what a lot of these YouTubers have in common, and what a lot of people who live solely on Social Security have in common, is that they are retired internationally and they have moved to a lower cost of living country like Mexico to live out their dreams. Now, a lot of people don't know this about the U.S.'s relationship with Mexico, but the country outside of the U.S. that has the most American citizens is Mexico. We tend to send a lot of our retirees and older people of limited means, sometimes not of limited means, just people looking for adventure, south of the border to Mexico. And some people have some pretty awesome retirements that way. But the concept, if you can live in the U.S. on Social Security alone, if you make that money stretch, is almost not possible, especially with the recent round of inflation that we've had over the past 3 years. It's practically impossible anywhere in the country unless you are receiving significant help. When I say significant help, you live with your daughter and she covers housing. Maybe there's two Social Securities, it's you and your husband. So it's not just one Social Security income, it's two Social Security income, and you live bare bones. You're an adherent of the FIRE movement, and you really have cut your expenses down and you live as frugally and simplistically as possible. But barring those few set of circumstances, it's virtually impossible in the US to live on Social Security alone. The fifth myth of retirement is that the average age of death in the US is 77. It's a truth and the myth. The average age of death in the US is 77, but the average age of death in the US can vary wildly depending on factors like gender. Women tend to live longer than men, geographic locations. In certain states and in certain areas of states, people tend to live longer, education, family history, health past, how you're currently taking care of your health. I regularly do retirement projections into 90s because people who are more affluent tend to live much, much longer than the average age of death at age 77. Occasionally, I run across an individual who thinks that they are going to die at 77. And, we take a look at their total history, their family history, their health history, their personal history, where they're from, where they're living to kind of make that determination. But almost no one that works with me is probably going to die at 77. They probably have a life expectancy at least close to a decade or so longer. And so you have to take that into consideration with retirement planning. So there you have it. 5 lies that we've all told or all been told about retirement. If you found this information useful, please like, please share, and please subscribe.